What's up, RBY community? Pack here, and I am back after a few years of hiatus to record some more RBYUU content. Tentatively, I'm going to try to do all of the matches for this season of RBYPL. Not sure if my motivation will stick around long enough for that. We'll see how it goes. I just got done earlier today with my debut match back in RBYU against Shellnuts. I did lose 0-3. We'll go over that in the next video. However, I actually need to research this match for my next week because I face ThatOneApple. So we're going to watch his match that happened in week 1. Now for some background, both of these players are actually newer to RBYUU. ThatOneApple has one tournament under his sleeve. Well, he actually got an impressive 2nd place at the 8th edition of RBYUU Cup. This is going to be JensenDale's first debut match in RBYUU. So we're going to see how these go. I've never watched a replay from either of these two players, so I don't know what to expect. Starting off, we have an unusual lead matchup here. Nidoking is not one I've ever seen before. I have heard that it does have some uses versus fire leads, electrics, things like Dodrio. You know, it has theoretical usage, so I can see why it's used. We're going to see it come out here. Kangaskhan used to be a more popular lead back in the older RBYUU metas, and I do think it is a good matchup versus Nidoking, so it could be why it used here. Maybe Jensen had a read on what lead Apple would use. However, I do have an issue with Kang being the lead, because I think Kangaskhan is very strong versus itself, and it's a very valuable mon. This is kind of one of the... I think of it like a big 3 at the moment, and I think expending it as your lead is a little sus, in my opinion. We're going to see how it goes. Kangaskhan is going to blizz in. Nidoking's going to blizz. I don't agree with the blizz here. It does about 1% more damage than Earthquake, but with the 10% chance to miss. It does have the freeze that it can do, but I think generally that accuracy is going to be more important, and the Kangaskhan's not going to switch out here. If it's being led, you're going to commit to that lead unless you have a hard counter. And Nidoking doesn't really have a hard counter. You're going to pivot out of your lead matchup too, in my opinion. We are going to see Nidoking win out that lead matchup, actually. We do get that freeze, so hey, maybe I'm wrong and Wither Blizzard is the play, because that freeze did end up working. Man, and a 256. That's very humorous lead match we got going on here. But the Persian is going to come in to clean up the Nidoking. Persian being revealed and Nidoking dying, I think pretty much can confirm to Jensen that there is no Haunter. I think Haunter would have come in right then. You know, it getting a sleep off for free and getting to keep Nidoking do sack later would have been huge. So there is no Haunter. So Kang is going to come in to answer the Persian. Kang does have the potential to, I mean, it can just slam beam kill Persian. It also has a counter on the table, a few different options. We are going to see the Lapras come in and take a slam. Now this could be interesting for Jensen to have to deal with, because that Lapras taking damage now is going to make it harder for Jensen to answer Apple's Lapras, because Lapras is going to be the best answer to itself. Now Jensen might have an electric, things like that is a plan. We're going to see how Jensen plays around this. So great play from Jensen. This might have been the path that was planned for. Apple's Lapras is going to come in on Jensen's. It's going to be able to win the 1v1 most likely in that scenario. Right, because even so, from this scenario we had here, Jensen's Lapras takes the slam. If Lapras stays in and blizzards here, Lapras can come in, and that's going to be good. But even if the Lapras T-bolts here, this is a better scenario to come in on a T-bolt accidentally, because Lapras is taking damage. Now, if Lapras stayed in for a Sing here, that might not be great, but I don't think that's ever going to be the play here, because Kang could just stay in and just try to KO the Lapras outright. It can take a Blizzard, and it's already a 74 for the Lapras. So you don't really click Sing. So I think Lapras is good. But Jensen knows that Lapras was the play. He used that situation to feed in the Hypno switch in. Now, this is a very advantageous situation for Hypno. Hypno is going to outright beat Lapras in the 1v1 most of the time, and Hypno outspeeds with Sleep as that option. We are going to see the Sleep Mist. Does not get punished with a Sing, just a Blizzard. It can take a Blizzard. It's not too big of a deal. Let's see if the second Hypnosis. It does not land. And we are going to see a Sing comes through. This is pretty disastrous scenario for Jensen to be in. We have a chipped Lapras and a slipped Hypno, with Apple's Lapras on the table, and Kangaskhan dead. Let's see if Jensen can come back for this, but this is a very strong start for Apple, which is very unfortunate, because I think this could have been a Jensen favorite scenario. We are going to see Lapras coming on the Blizzard, but this Lapras is already so chipped anyway, and I think you just play out this mirror in Apple's favored. Especially when you get a crit T-Bolt like that. You are going to get the Sing, but that Lapras is still dead. And I don't think that T-Bolt was going to be the play. I don't think Apple's going to stay in there in that scenario. I don't think fishing for a wake-up is good, and Jensen's not going to preserve this 1% Lapras, obviously, and Apple knows that. I don't think T-Bolt is going to be the play. I think you just Blizzard to get the switching, because the switching is obvious. KO with a Seismic Toss. Persian's going to come in, try to break through the Hypno. Lapras is going to come in and take a Slash. Articuno is going to come in. I wonder what the last could be where we have to go for Lapras here. But also why we can't just keep in Persian to break the Lapras. Because this is not a great scenario for Articuno to set up. So we have to spend a turn setting up the agility. And we have to Dedge H-Beam through this Lapras. That's several turns for Lapras to burn off this sleep. And there's still 2 revealed mons. This feels a very premature Articuno. What could last be where we have to go for this? And yeah, we're going to see it's going to get punished. This is not a great scenario for Articuno unless it gets really lucky. We're not going to see that luck come through. You don't have the ability to sing the Articuno, but you can still T-Bolt through it, and you are advantageous to win this. And Lapras has done plenty of work. We can just cash out our Lapras here. Yeah, and see, I feel like we could have, if Dragonites are last year, we could have brought out Dragonite first while I was sleeping and Thunderbolted through it, or really just kept the Persian in. I don't know why we went for this line. Dragonite's going to finish off the Lapras. Going to see if we can break this Hypno. Crit Slam is very good for the Dragonite. See how this plays out. Alright. Able to break through the Hypno pretty easily. So from here we have a Kangaskhan, full health, Dragonite full health, and unrevealed. Jensen side. This Dragonite dies to Blizzard. You're not going to switch in the Hypno. You're not going to switch in the Persian because you're just relying on Persian sweep at this point. So Dragonite is going to be KO'd here. We want the Hypno to stay where it is. We don't want to sack it or try to fish or wake up or anything. A, because you're outspeed, obviously, but this needs to stay asleep, because if this last is a sleeper, Persian's best chance is going to be having immunity to sleep here, because of the sleep clause, obviously. Going to try to parafish, but Dragonite's just not a good matchup for Persian in this scenario, and we're not going to see it work out. Well, we're going to see a crit. No para, though. Very unfortunate game 1 for Jensen. I think he had a strong start, but after that Hypno crumbled, the rest of the game just crumbled. I don't agree with when Articuno came out. I think there's a different line we could have gone for. But we're going to see how game 2 goes. The lead matchup is Rapidash versus Moltres. Another advantageous lead matchup for Jensen. I think he seems to have a good read on what Apple's leads are going to be, because Moltres is going to be the bulkier mon here, going to take the slams from the Rapidash better, deal better damage with Double Edge, and also has agility in the mix like Rapidash does, unlike something like Ninetales. So Moltres is going to most likely do well here, but we did see the Kangaskhan not work out well versus the Nidoking, obviously the luck, so we'll see if that happens again. Gonna get a crit slam, not a crit Dedge. I think you died a Hyper Beam from the Rapidash here. Very unfortunate scenario. That Moltres is going to die. The Rapidash is going to be preserved to do more damage another point. Let's see what happened here for the Dragonite that got revealed to get hit with a Rock Slide. So Dugtrio comes out, obviously KO's Rapidash. We're going to see Dragonite coming on the Earthquake, but it's instead a Rock Slide, which most likely covers both. I would need to double check, but Rock Slide might KO Rapidash, or at least do good damage, and covers a Flying Switch-In, which is going to be a common answer to the Dugtrio. Especially with Tangela not being as much in the picture. So Rock Slide is good. Rock Slide being revealed this early could possibly reveal more about the Dugtrio set. What with Sand Attack being popular nowadays, you kind of have, Earthquake and stuff still pretty guaranteed, but you have Rock Slide, Slash, and Sand Attack all in the picture. Rock Slide has been revealed. See, now Gyarados is going to come in and get hit with a T-Wave. Now, I think I think this Dugtrio Dragonite interaction is pretty interesting. I think these two have always had an interesting interaction in previous RBY metas. In this scenario, as the Dragonite, you have a couple options here. You can Blizzard, expecting the Dugtrio to stay in, right? That's kind of step one. Can you Blizzard and do big damage to the Dugtrio? It can work. It can also, with the way the meta is currently set up, you Blizzarding, there's not a lot of switch-ins that come in that very comfortably. Something like a Lapras, for instance, can come in on Blizzard, but you do have the threat of paralysis from T-Wave or T-Bolt after that. That's not exactly a great situation to be in, especially if Dragonite might just want to trade that out, and then Apple's, Lapras would be advantaged there. And even if you've taken one Blizzard as Lapras, and the opponent switches out, you're now disadvantaged against the other Lapras, and you usually use Lapras to oppose Lapras. You can also T-Wave as this Dragonite to hit the switch in, because Dugtrio is weak to Dragonite, right? So he's going to switch out. T-Wave the switch in, which is what ends up happening. As the Dugtrio, though, if you expect a T-Wave, you can stay in and either get a Sand Attack off or a Substitute off. Now, we don't know if this has Sand Attack. I think you should be at this. I think everyone generally agrees right now that you should run Sand Attack. It's a cheesy move, but I think it has a lot of advantages, and this is a very high-rolly tier. I think it's worth it. So I think you could either set up a Sand Attack or a Substitute here, and if he does go for Blizz, if you go for the Substitute route, it's pretty free. I think you can sub here very comfortably, and you just eat 25% and possibly get a lot more advantage off of it. Or you can even Sand Attack first, and that Blizz could either miss, or Dugtrio can take one Blizzard. So there's a couple ways to go about this as the Dugtrio. I think to get the most worth out of Dugtrio right now, right? Because Dugtrio is not as common as it used to be. But I think you use the Sand Attack set to cheese through one of these checks, and once one of these is gone, it is very easy for Dugtrio to roll through. A Dugtrio at 1% or 25 or 50 is just as valuable as 100% Dugtrio. It's so frail. I think you just use up your subs and your Sand Attacks, cheese through this Dragonite, save the Dugtrio for later, you outspeed this Rapidash, you outspeed other things, and you think you get a lot of use out of this. I think that's what you go for. Instead, the Gyarados is going to take a Paralysis here, and I don't think Gyarados takes Paralysis very well. This is not a great scenario for Gyarados to be in. It's a lot less threatening. Rapidash is going to come in the Blizzard, and Blizzard was very telegraphed from Jensen here, right, because Blizzard does big damage to Dragonite. But there's no shot that Dragonite stays in here. Thunderbolt doesn't kill. Dragonite has a lot more usage out of it to check this Dugtrio, right? And it hasn't been whittled down by the Dugtrio yet, so you're going to want to keep this around. And Rapidash makes sense. This Rapidash is already half done, and it was your lead. You're not placing a lot of value into this Rapidash. So if you think Blizzard's going to come in, this is a very good play from Apple. Very telegraph play. If you could have punished this harder. If Gyarados has Surf, would have been great here, would have KO'd. Say Rapidash is going to come in and get a Hyper Beam off. There's more damage from the Rapidash, and there's potential with it paired. It could have got another hit. But it's not going to happen. Dragon is going to come in. Very telegraphed Thunderbolt. If Dragonite's coming back in, it has a Thunderbolt. And the Rapidash set up the damage range so you could do this, right? Kind of back to the initial situation, just safer. But this is 100% a T-Bolt. Now, we know Jensen's not going to bring Dugtrio in, because he doesn't want to play out the Dugtrio Dragonite Sand Attack Substitute interaction. So I'm thinking here Hypno comes in would make the most sense to take a T-Bolt. That's what's going to happen, yeah. We're going to apply pressure to the Hypno, try to whittle it down. And we're going to see Hypno from the Jensen apply Hypnosis in the Dragonite. Now Dragonite has been sacked to sleep, but this can prove problematic for Jensen, because typically a very good way of applying pressure to a Lapras is going to be Hypno's Hypnosis. That is now off the table. Jensen's Hypno is also paralyzed, which makes it hard to use Hypno to answer Lapras. The Gyarados is also paralyzed. We don't have one Mon, and Dugtrio exists, and that's not going to be a great answer to Lapras. And we have our own Lapras, but if Apple can apply pressure to that Lapras, Apple's Lapras is going to go crazy, and I think it's just going to win the game. This is not a great scenario to be in for Jensen, I don't think. We're not setting ourselves up for success here. I just wonder if there is a better way to answer this Dragonite to open up Dugtrio than sleep. Not sure. It just depends on what the rest of Jensen's team is, but it makes me wonder about the team. You know, and whether it was built to accomplish what we need to accomplish. We are going to see the Hypno. Jensen's Hypno is getting bullied right now. Para into para into para is very unfortunate. Hypno should at least be getting paralyzed here. Is it going to get away scot-free? So, Psychic makes sense here. Seismic Toss is not going to kill, right? And Psychic covers switch outs, and it can crit, and it can special fall. Psychic makes sense. Jensen's going to go for a Seismic Toss. I don't see what this 26% is going to do. That paralyzing Apple's Hypno wouldn't be... Like, paralyzing Apple's Hypno would be much more useful than this 26%. So I'm not sure why we went for that Seismic Toss. I don't know if we just clicked it because we assume we're dead. Or, no, it couldn't be because you're out of range. I'm really not sure why we clicked Seismic Toss there, but we did. Dugtrio's going to come back in to pressure the Hypno. See, now we're going to the Sand Attack. This is my issue with this game. Is because if we end up having to rely on Sand Attack anyway, I think we should have done it versus the Dragonite. Sealed that away. We could have used our Hypno as Jensen to apply better pressure to Apple's Hypno or Lapras, and then we'd be in a better spot. Instead, I think our order of operation was wrong here, and now we're relying on this, which is not a great situation to be in. Jensen's going to try to utilize this lowered accuracy to win the Lapras mirror, which, at this point, this is what you need to go for. Is going to work out. The Sing is not going to hit. I mean, it's 50 with a Sand Attack, so not likely to hit. If Apple's Sing does land, I think he just wins the game right here. I don't think there's any coming back for Jensen unless he insta-wakes up. We do have here a Haunter coming in to punish the Lapras from here. Haunter's going to catch the T-Bolt, threaten out Sleep. Dugtrio's going to come in. Kangaskhan's going to come in at that point to attempt to punish whatever the switching is going to be. In this case, it's Lapras. It is going to get a crit slam and para, potentially huge, but unfortunately gets hit with Blizzard anyway. Now that Lapras has taken this damage, we're going to tank the Blizzard and try to win the 1v1 from here. Good sequence from Jensen. Hypno's going to come in to take the pretty telegraphed T-Bolt. I think when you're this far behind, you probably need to click Blizzard in that scenario to try to catch this from happening. I do get a para here. See if we're able to bring this one back. This is a very advantageous situation for Haunter. We're just going to T-Bolt here. Are able to get a Blizzard onto the Haunter. Dugtrio's going to catch the T-Bolt. Are we trying to wake up here? Were we trying to catch... What are we trying to do here? Are we? Yeah, I guess we're just fishing a wake with Dugtrio to bring us back, but unfortunately it does not happen. Because, I mean, I do think Dugtrio waking up there, while unlikely, would really change the tide of this battle. Dugtrio could sweep through these three right here, depending on what the last one is. So I can definitely see why. But we do open up the potential to get slept here. But I also don't think sleeping the King here, because sleeping the King does win, but that 40% chance it doesn't land, Haunter could die and you lose this strong lead that you have. Obviously, depending on what Apple's last is. So, are we going to go for the sleep, or are we going to try to play without having to apply sleep here? Because if you do land sleep, T-Bolt sweeps through this, and sweeps through this. You just win. So we're going to try to play to better odds here. We're going to sack the Dragonite here. Do we not... Why do we not click Blizzard? Or I guess... Okay, either way. This Dragonite is going to die here. Haunter's going to come back in. Yeah, it brings us back to this King scenario. Yeah, so we're just trying to play to get us to a more guaranteed scenario with Haunter, I suppose. I wonder what Apple's last is here. We're back to Haunter King, and Explode does guarantee. So yeah, that's what Apple is going for. He knows that Explosion KOs here, but you can't prematurely explode because a switch-in could catch it and lose your advantages, so he slowly chipped away these other two, so it's just king, and then he can boom, and whatever this unrevealed is wins the game. Great series of plays from Apple there, really sealed away the game. That was a very strong end to that game. Now, Jensen's not in a great scenario here. He is going to be down 0-2 in the set, but he has had some good plays, especially in that game 1. And he has had good lead matchups. It hasn't worked out for him, but let's see if that can change in this one. So we're going to see Kangaskhan coming again. I still don't agree with the Kangaskhan lead, and we're going to see it being up against Dragonite here is going to result in the Kangaskhan taking a para from turn 1, which I value my Kangaskhan a lot more than this. But we are able to get a Blizzard off from the Dragonite, which is good damage. So we're gonna end up keeping our 65% paired King, bringing in Gyarados. And obviously we're trying to bring in this Gyarados and hit Blizzard here. Instead, the Gyarados gets frozen, which is very unfortunate. Now, this is a very dire scenario to be in for Jensen, because what do you bring in against this Dragonite? I'd say a Hypno is going to be the least casualty, but Hypno having to take T-Wave is not what you want to do, but I mean, this is a very unfortunate scenario. I'd say you might even want to bring back in the King, just sack it at this point, and bring in something faster than KO. But the question is, do you have something faster than KO? Because that oftentimes would be Kangaskhan or Gyarados, and they're both down. Yeah, there's going to be Hypno like I thought. It's going to take Slam. Can now do another Slam, or it could T-Wave, or a lot of things. I don't think you die to Psychic here. You could H-Beam KO the Hypno here. Thankfully gets a para, but that could have been dead Hypno. And I think if that Hypno died there, I mean, you can see why Volk is saying, no worry, no worry, no worry. Because, like, if that Hypno dies, it's wraps. This set is over, I think. And we're going to get a crit H-Beam on the lap. So from Apple's lead alone, Apple was able to get King parried up to 65. The Gyarados is frozen. The Hypno is H-Beam range from like a King. It's at 44. And Lapras will die to 1 T-Bolt from a lap. I don't know how you come back from this. We're going to have to see if Jensen can do it. But I think this Dragonite just wrapped up the game tight. Yeah, see what I mean? Lapras is now H-Beam percent. I mean, this King alone, I'm pretty sure it can kill Hypno from this range. Can it not? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it can. We're instead going to... Not sure what the goal of this is, but the Dodrio does come in. We set up Agility, because, I mean, we need to make some big plays here, try to sweep past. The Blizzard's going to hit the Dodrio. We are going to get the critical hit H-Beam to break to the Kangaskhan. Trying to stop the bleeding here. Raichu comes in on the T-Bolt. Right, good pivot in. We're going to try to punish the Lapras here. Dugtrio's going to come in to punish the Raichu. And we don't have a great answer to Dugtrio at this point. Hypno is chipped. Kangaskhan's chipped and parried. Gyarados is frozen. And Dodrio's at 56. That's dying to 2 slashes. This dying to an EQ. Dugtrio can really make some waves here. We're going to see a critical hit the Raichu, instant die. Dodrio comes in. Rock Slide's not going to KO, but it almost does. Slam's going to critical hit this. This Dodrio's the only thing keeping Jensen in this, remarkably. I mean, Dodrio really does do that. Lapras's going to come in. Dodrio can't threaten much to the Lapras at full. Hypno's going to come in. It can take a Blizzard here, and we're going to see, or a T-Bolt, and we can see the Hypno try to pressure the Lapras. We're going to see Jensen try to get a Hypnosis off, but it does not work. Jensen is not getting much at all this game. Kangaskhan got a lap. Going for more H-Beam crits, which does not go his way this time. So the Kangaskhan is going to die. Dodrio comes in. So it can kill off the Hypno here, and nothing's going to switch in because, I mean, another critical hit H-Beam can just kill about anything. That's not a Golem, which would have been revealed by now. But Lapras is going to be tough for this Dodrio to break through. We're going to need a Slam Para into critical hit H-Beam, I think is the way this happens, or some or it's actually going to be T-Bolt, not Blizzard, because it's at 19% here. Not going to... Oh, we are going to get a Para. And it's going to be Para. So can we get critical hit H-Beam? Let's see, because if it gets crit H-Beam, this becomes very possible for the Dodrio. Jensen has somehow stayed in this game through the sheer power of Dodrio hacks. It does not happen. Oh? Can we get through the recharge turn? We do not. Dodrio really almost clutched it up. But Apple is going to take that set 3-0. I think overall Apple had very smart plays, very good lines, very safe plays. I think Jensen had some questionable plays in some of there, but also a couple really strong plays, such as that Hypno coming in game 1. But when he got those good plays, the luck was not in his favor, so he was not able to capitalize. And the lead matchups just did not go his way. He had two good callouts, game 1 and 2, that just luck didn't really favor him. And then that Dragonite just really did a number on him. But did not go his way, but that was his debut match. And I think for a debut match in a tier, he did very well. I mean, my debut match went pretty horribly, however many years ago it was now. So I think that was a very good debut match. Apple's going to be a strong contender going into week 2. I mean, I'm going to have to face him, but he's going in 1-0. And, take notes from what you saw here. I'm going to, after this, record me versus Show, and I will meet y'all in the next video.